Looking at this from a deeper spiritual perspective, from the framework of Kabbalah, in our mind there are actually 10 sefirot, 10 qualities, 10 spheres, as it were. And the 10th is this one. Go back to Credo of a modern Kabbalist, Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi and Rabbi Daniel Siegel. Here's the book. If you'd like to purchase it, we're going to be studying from this book once a week, and I recommend actually getting the book. Today we're on page 21, and let's jump right into the next level of this emerging theology, Jewish theology for our time. Based on spirituality, modern philosophical and scientific thought, right in the now, moving forward. This is our credo, our motto. So welcome everybody to this lesson. Page 21, service kindness kindness study in action triad. So up to now, we looked at the two triads that Dr. Franz Rosenzweig combined together in order to create his 6-point star of redemption. And those are God, Torah, Israel, and then creation, revelation, redemption. Combined together, those are the 6 value points or 6 dimensions that encompass all of Judaism, according to Rosenzweig. But we'll take this a step forward here with the help of Reb Zalman, from 6 dimensions to 10 qualities. So we're going to add another triad. And this triad is, let me jump right into the text. I'll read right from the words of Reb Zalman. A Kabbalist sees things not only in the 6 dimensions of Rosenzweig's star, but in the 10 qualities revealed in the 10 sefirot. Therefore, there is still one more important triad to consider. Shimon the Tzaddik used to say the world stands on 3 things. Shimon HaTzaddik haya omer, על 3 דברים העולם עומד, על התורה, על העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. This is from Pirkei Avot, from the Ethics of the Fathers. So let's go a little bit into some depth into each one of those. What is Torah? What is Avodah? And what is Gmilut Chasadim? So back to the words of Reb Zalman. On Torah, which is the revelation of God's will in our history, as it has been recorded and transmitted through an oral tradition. So there you have it, the Torah, the revelation, back to revelation, creation, revelation, redemption. So the Torah is in the center of that because it's the revelation of God's will, God's design, God's, the mind of God, the supreme consciousness. If all our individual consciousnesses, each individual, you and I and everybody else, if we put it all together into one ultimate, great all-encompassing mind, that will be God. And it's expressed through history as it's gone down on record in the Torah. And Avodah, Avodah means typically divine worship, but there are obviously different interpretations, different takes throughout the ages on what Avodah means. Reb Zalman says the following, which are acts done in the service of God, including the sacrifices in the temple, verbal prayer, and perhaps now moving to yet another level requiring a redefinition of the term itself. So I think what Reb Zalman is asking here is okay. So in the past, avodah, divine service, divine practice, the sort of like the spiritual work of our people has been in 10 full days it was sacrifice. For the past 2,000 years, it transformed from sacrifice to prayer, as we have it in the Siddur and in the synagogue rituals, and private as well, communal prayer and private prayer. And the question is, what's next? Are we moving into a new paradigm? In the information age, in the in the speed of communication, in the way that now we can learn Torah at the same time in different time zones, right? I had a chavruta once in Jerusalem, so that was 7 hours apart. So when he was doing mincha, I was doing shachrit, right? And also, no more prayer books. Have you seen people daven at the airport, for instance, when observant Jews take out their smartphone and daven from the smartphone? So we're moving into a new era, and part of the new era we're moving into, and we don't know where we're going to, but there's much more contemplative practice that's out in the culture that we're taking advantage of. Mindfulness work, So would the future of avodah, divine service, include more meditation, more mindfulness, more quiet sitting, more chanting, as Reb Shefa Gold has developed a whole practice of Jewish chanting? There's a next evolutionary emergence that is happening in the midst of it. And I think Reb Zalman is bringing our attention to that. What would be the Jewish spiritual practice, the avodah, as we move forward into the future? And then on Gmilut Chasadim, which means acts of loving kindness. Here are Reb Zalman's words, which are deeds of loving kindness defined by how one person treats another human being, an animal, or perhaps even any other life form. And you can see that we're thinking here about ecology. We can't think only about human beings and even animals. We need to think about the whole deep ecology, the whole system of life that we are codependent, interdependent with. How do we treat that? Right? So there's the spiritual environmentalism, as it were. So the triad of these three terms carries three questions. So again, the three terms: Torah, avodah, divine worship or spiritual practice, and milut chasadim, acts of loving kindness. And the three questions are these: how do I act upon my devotion? How do I act upon my devotion? Let me ask you, you and I, do we have a sufficient outlet for our devotion as Jews? Am I satisfied? Do I have the places where my natural innate devotion, my love for life and God and nature and love itself, and the piece of me that's vibrant and wants to vibrate on higher and higher levels, do I have a proper outlet for that? Is the synagogue service as we know it traditionally, does that do it for us? How do I act upon my devotion as a Jew, as a Torah-centered spiritual practitioner? Next question: how do I relate to other beings? How do I posture myself, position myself in the world in relation to other beings? Do I have a clear enough framework for that, other than just being a good person? A lot of people will say to me, my religion is being a good person. Which is actually a really good thing, right? It's very foundational, it's very basic. Whoever says that has it right. But how? The details. How are you a good person? How do you put that into practice? What's the framework? What's your protocol? Do you have one? So it's a serious question. It's a question that begs kind of detail, kind of like a real answer. How do I relate to other beings? What's my framework? What's my reference point? How do I learn what is wanted of me? How do I know what my role is? How do I know what my purpose is? What is that which I need to fulfill in this life? In other words, Ma Hashem shoel mimcha. What is God asking of you? What's the beacon that I need to follow? You, I, we each have a personal mission. Obviously, that we need to discover first, uncover, reveal, revelation. It is possible to relate these three questions to the three kinds of yoga as well. And here you can see that Reb Zalman is wanting to, deep ecumenism was very important to him because he wanted to make sure that we're connected, that we are working together in concert with the other valuable spiritual streams that are in society, that are there. And yoga is one of them, right? So are we Jews? We're all a goyim. We're a light to the nations, but alone? We need to really be on a light to the nations team, right? Well, I'm suggesting it, but how about if Jewish light workers and yogi light workers and Christian light workers and Muslim light workers and Buddhist light workers, if we all teamed up together. So here's a comparison of the three questions to the three types of yoga that parallel this triad of from the Pirkei Avot, Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. And here it is. So the yoga of the heart, that is Avodah. That is a spiritual service. The yoga of the body, that is Gemilut Chasadim, acts of loving kindness. We take care of the bodies of others, of immigrants, of the frail, of the weak, of the sick, of the poor, of other nations in the world who are suffering from climate change more than we are, or have less resources to deal with it. And then the yoga of the mind, and that is Torah. So we're going to wrap up this lesson with a very crucial next step. We'll touch on it now, and then the next lesson next week we'll get more into depth. Because we looked at so far three triangles. That is the six triangles of Rosenzweig, which is God, Torah, Israel, then creation, revelation, redemption. Now we have the third triangle, which is Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim, Torah, divine worship, divine service or spiritual practice, and acts of loving kindness. So that makes 9. But the Kabbalist, looking at this from a deeper spiritual perspective, from the framework of Kabbalah, in our mind there are actually 10 sefirot, 10 qualities, 10 spheres, as it were. And the 10th is this one. Covenant, the tie that binds. And we're on page 22 here. This is the subtitle, the title of this subchapter. What binds these triads together provides the 10th dimension, peculiarly Jewish ground within the star of redemption, is the facet of Brit, covenant. The covenant of God with us, the Jewish people, is the core without which I could not even imagine the existence of Judaism. It all stands on, all revolves around the energy and the concept of covenant. So much of what we do is in reference to the covenant. So in fact, in our culture, in our spirituality, in text and also in practice, the covenant is a central theme, and here's where we see it. When a male child is born, he is brought into the bris, right, of the covenant of Avraham Avinu, Abraham, our ancestor. The observance of Shabbat is the expression of the covenant. Oti leolam. Pesach, Passover, is about the covenant. Shavuot is the time when we receive the covenant. The Torah itself is called the covenant. So we need to ask what this idea of covenant means. What does it mean to have a contractual relationship with the divine? What does it mean to you? How do you think of, experience, or perhaps manifest? Now that we're focusing in on this sort of the theological spine of Judaism, we walk around with a spine, but nobody really sees it because it's right there in the core. It holds us together, right? We live our Jewish lives, for many of us, we live our Jewish lives not concerned about the covenant, but now that we're there, we're doing the deep anatomy of what it means to be Jewish. Does covenant show up for you? Are you in a contractual relationship with God? Does that inspire? I'll tell you a quick story. I once was sitting with a friend, a Muslim. I go back to Israel and I'm meeting with my old friend Aswan, and we're having some kind of comparative religion talk. I said to her, yes, we all, Muslims and Jews are, worshiping the same one God, and some would make the claim that Christians are too. But we all come to it differently. And I said, what's Islam? Islam means surrender. So the core value for a Muslim is to surrender one's will to God. And then for Christians, the core value is to accept Jesus' love into your heart. So the core value for Christianity is this experiencing the love, being in the love flow. And for Jews, I was going to say, and she filled in the blank, and she said, it's negotiating with God. She had done she was she was an intellectual, she was a smart, learned woman, and she knew that about Judaism, and she was absolutely right. Mikuach, mekach. We Jews are in conversation with God, are in negotiations, wheeling and dealing. This is what Abraham did when God told him about God's plans to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham said, well, God, if there are 50 righteous people, will you still do it? And God said, no, if there are 50, I won't do it. But God, I don't want to get on your nerves, but what if there are 40? That is the beginning of what we mean by covenant. There is a give and a take. There's a conversation between me and God. We're going to leave it here, and next week when we come back to this lesson on Credo, we will open up covenant on many different levels, much more in depth with Rabbi Zalman's help. For now, let me wish you the blessing of a day that's filled with meaningful dialogue with God, with yourself, with others, and a good journey through all three stations of the triad, Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim, all 9 stations of Rosenzweig's Star of Redemption, and just a blessed good day. With that, shalom. Please subscribe by clicking the red button below, like, share a comment. It is great to have you here. See you later.